Hello guys, I just wanted to say hello and make this little video for you today. I wanted to have a little bit of an honest prank, discussion, uh, about something that's been on my mind regarding Spurs and a little bit about myself, just how we've ended up where we are today. If anyone who's happened to have been around from when I started doing these videos, all the way back in 2017, will tell you that Spurs. Look, first of all, I've always my family is a Spurs family, and I'm very grateful, and thankful that I love the club as much as I do. And it's always been infectious to me that and particularly in the early years, it was very all-consuming. You know, Spurs results would judge, my mood, my enjoyment, my happiness, my health. It would be everything. You know, trust me, if Spurs would ever lose a game or would fail at something, I would be in the foulest of moods that you couldn't, get me out of. And if you're lucky enough to have gone back to the early years of my channel in 2017, when I first started doing this, which was just as a hobby back then, it was to give, show some of that infectious light. And the more and more that I started to do it, the more all-consuming it became. The more I grew deeper into Spurs being just everything of my life, and started to neglect other aspects of my life that I really should have prioritized. And over time, not only did my health my deteriorate to the point not just physical health but mental health, I also started really losing love, I would say, for Spurs. I would never say I gave up on them, but the repetitive cycles of managers moaning about the club, fans moaning about the club online, just the endless repeat of sack, rinse, repeats, all the time, constantly missing out on everything from trophies to transfers to, and just generally feeling like being stuck in an endless loop. It just became depressing, really. And as I say, something you do love so much, starts making you sad and miserable all the time, it's not, it's not healthy. But I was so consumed back then that I couldn't see it, and I would be so invested in it so hard that, as I say, everything else in my life started to become, I would just shove it at the back of my head and think, this is what matters most, when in reality it matters the least. And that's not to say that I never, that I didn't care, because I do deeply, but it should never come to the detriment of, your personal life. And that's what I was doing to myself. And, I eventually reached the point of, I've got to just stop. I took myself away completely and, realized I just needed to take myself away from, the idea of, has to be everything I do. And I needed to actually do something productive with my life. And, because to put it bluntly, I was in a bit of a mess. I was unhealthy. I was just not really doing anything with myself. I was just existing, really. Until eventually I made a choice and started to, put myself back together with, my gym work. And what initially started out as a thought process of trying to get myself healthy again started to become something I really enjoyed doing. And it started to open up other avenues of happiness that I didn't know before. And through being able to express myself more and, actually seeing something you put your work in for, that you try hard at, and actually seeing, a reward for it, a personal reward in yourself, it was the most happy thing in the world. And I rediscovered happiness again, and it remains one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Going off and doing that work, and finally being able to go around just everyday life and just with a smile on your face and think, what, I'm doing good with myself at last. And I needed to just remove that element out of my life, to be able to see that and to be able to actually achieve, what I wanted. And it's also opened the avenue of doing other things, pushing my boundaries, you daring myself to do things I wouldn't do have done before. And just the endless cycle, as I said, of Spurs' disappointments just wasn't doing it for me. And I wouldn't ever say I gave up on Spurs, but I just kind of accepted that maybe it's just not ever going to change, and just maybe just I didn't. It's just not for me, and I need to move on to other things in life. And I just decided to stop, doing videos about it because number one is just boring and repetitive, saying the same things over and over again. Because you don't want to listen to that as much as I don't want to have to say it, and also, as I said, it was just unhealthy to just keep going through that cycle. And ironically, when I started to do that, I found an appreciation, for other things, and I now have a life where I feel healthy. I have things I've achieved. I've got things I want to do. I've got some ideas in mind that I want to do with my life. But now I actually have found myself starting to love football in a different way now. Where I actually can enjoy following Spurs again without it being the be all and end all of life, because it, truth be told, isn't and really shouldn't be. Or you absolutely should cheer and scream and cry and love Spurs as much as you can, but you should do that, and then once that's finished, let it out and move on to other things with life, because you do it for that day, you get it all out of your system, then you move on to what you do, because and don't carry that burden, which I've made that mistake myself many times. And the real turning point was the Europa League final last season, and not just, obviously not for the fact just that we won it, obviously, but going away to an event with a fellow Spurs group that I've become a member of and have met so many great people through. Just talking to them, friendly people, friendly faces who love what I love. The genuine euphoria from all of us when we won that final was, it reminded you why you suffer through those hardships, and at the hope that maybe just one day you'll get that moment of joy. And when it does, it's so rewarding. And now I have a better understanding and a better appreciation of it as well, because I used to just shut out other people. I thought I just had to do it, you know, I didn't really interact with people back, before. I don't know, I was too focused on myself. I didn't really learn how to interact with people. I didn't uh, grasp the concept of social interactions. Wasn't really mature enough to understand, that that it shouldn't be the be all and end all of your life. And I think I've learned that now, and I've learned it through a lot of people that I've met over the last couple of years. And that newfound just self esteem in myself has really, really given me a drive that I've started to embrace. And just being able to go out, to Spurs. I remember going opening day of the season with our group, East Kent Spurs, for those who don't know, and just traveling out with a group of people who love what you do, who you can laugh with and joke and have a drink with, because you all love the same thing, and being able to bounce off other people and share their views and share, good memories and stories together, and it's you could say that I wasted a lot of my life, not doing that, but at the same time, I'm glad I went through it because otherwise I wouldn't have come up the other side where I am now. And I'm very grateful that I'm here and that I'm enjoying doing this again, talking to you guys. And, I want to keep it that way. But at the same time, not lose sight of what, I've done to get here. I think I've finally got the right balancing act. And, you know, I owe that to all of you. So I want to keep doing this all more often and just keep enjoying the ride and hope we can carry on. So that's just something I wanted to say to all of you. So, you know, we will carry on this journey together, and just a genuinely big thank you. And thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you all very, very soon. And as always, come on, you Spurs.